This conference will now be recorded. This conference will now be recorded.
Good morning, everyone. Am I audible? Clear?
Yes, it's clear.
Thank you. Okay, let's get started. So thanks everyone for joining. So as you all might already know, this is a demo for DevOps with Azure course. So welcome to the demo. My name is Kiran. And without further ado, let me introduce myself. I have about 10 years of experience in DevOps and site reliability engineering. I mean, back in the day, it was not called DevOps exactly, but yeah, site reliability engineering. Um, I'm passionate about technology and also teaching. I'm a movie buff, watch movies very regularly and occasionally read books. I think that's common for everyone. Uh, so my areas of interest in terms of technology, are container orchestration. You might have heard about Docker and Kubernetes. I'm a certified Kubernetes administrator, and cloud. So I work both on AWS, Azure, and a little bit on DigitalOcean. And passionate about automation and FOSS. FOSS is free and open source software, where Linux is the prime example for that. Okay, and yeah, so that's about me. And before we start the demo, let me set some ground rules. So it's a demo, and I'm not going to cover any technical topics, but I'm going to cover what we are going to do in this. I mean, when you join the course, what you're going to learn, and a brief about each of these things. Okay, if you're completely new to these terminologies. Okay, second thing, you can stop me at any time and ask me questions. Do not hesitate. Okay, and unless you have a question, please be on mute. Okay, so those are the ground rules. Okay, so let's get straight into what is this course all about. Okay, so as I said, we're going to get a very high level overview of what we are going to cover in this course. So learn and use key Azure services, learn and apply DevOps toolset, gain insights into application lifecycle management with emphasis on operations and automation. So you will understand the key Azure services. Okay, why did I use the key Azure services? Because Azure itself has hundreds of services, and no one can really master all of them. But as a DevOps engineer, what are the services that you need to know, and what are the services you need to use? Will uh, learn those things. Okay, and the second thing is to learn DevOps toolset. Okay, so there are various tools, and we'll pick a subset of those tools, and we'll learn about them and we'll apply them. Okay, and third thing is gain insights into application lifecycle management. So what happens when a product has to be launched? When I say product, a software product, okay, it could be a application, web application, it could be in mobile application, or any application. There is a life cycle, right? So we'll understand that from the operations perspective, not from the software development perspective. Okay, of course, we'll also have to see how the software development works, and the emphasis will always be on automation. Okay, so we focus on doing in everything in an automated fashion. Of course, initially we are going to learn everything step by step through UI only. As we go along, we tend to do everything in an automated manner. Okay, so this course aims to be a gateway to enhance your skill set and give the right boost to your career. Okay, so that's a very, very high level overview. So far, if anyone has any questions. All right, I'll take that
No.
as a no. Yeah, thank you. All right, so now let's understand what's cloud. Why are we talking about cloud? Because as you know, this course is DevOps with Azure, or you could say DevOps plus Azure. Okay, so Azure is a cloud service, as you already know. So first we understand what's cloud. Okay, it's a very commonly used buzzword these days. So let's understand what's cloud. Cloud computing is the on-demand availability of computing resources. Okay, so this is a very important point to understand. What is this on-demand availability of computing resources? So if you all remember back in the day, if you have to hire a cab, okay, so let's say you have to go to airport tomorrow at 11 a.m. or leave from your home at 11 a.m. to airport. So at least 24 hours before you're leaving from home, you have to call these cab providers called as Zcab or Sky Cabs. You remember those things? I mean, people in India, people in US, I don't know what's the equivalent there. So you have to call them one day in advance and say that, okay, could you please, come tomorrow at 11 a.m. to my home. I need to go to airport. And these folks will be like, oh no, tomorrow may not be possible because we have full bookings and all. Then you have to call another operator. But fast forward to 2015 or 2014, where you had you started having Uber and Ola. So you just log into the app whenever you want a cab, or just 10 minutes before you want a cab, and you know select your destination and your cab arrives in another 10 minutes. Okay, that's what we call on demand, right? So the cloud is also all about that. Back in the day, if you have to uh, create a web application, you have to first order a web server. You have to order physical hardware like the server. Okay, you cannot run it from your laptop. If you want to do production grade web application, you cannot do it from your laptop, right? So you need to order a physical server, a computer which will sit in your home, and you will have to plug into that network cables and power cables and all that. But now with the advent of cloud, you can simply log into the cloud provider's website and just click on a few things, and you get a server available for you, and you can install whatever you want to on it, and you can deploy your code, and your web application will be ready. So on demand is as and when you want, you'll get a resource. Okay, but that's from the end user's perspective. That's from your and mine perspective. But what actually cloud is? A cloud is nothing but it's a collection of data centers managed by a cloud provider. Okay, so I'm not sure how many of you are into IT or operations related world, but you know these two words, right? On-premise and cloud, or private data center, or public cloud. Okay, so traditionally companies used to have their own data centers. Okay, they have their own data centers. They would manage them through their own staff. They will have hundreds of physical servers connected with cables, power cables, and you need to have redundancy in the sense you cannot just rely on one network provider. Okay, when you're running a large company, you have to have multiple network providers. You might have AT&T, Verizon. In case of India, it might be Tata, Airtel, and whatever, whoever is providing the um, network services. So is the case with power. You cannot simply rely on the public power distribution. You might have to have your own power unit so that your systems never go down because of power shortage. So that's how the traditionally companies run their data centers. Cloud is also nothing different. Okay, but instead of your company managing these data centers, a cloud provider will manage them. Who is the cloud provider? It could be Microsoft in case of Azure. In case of AWS, it's Amazon. Okay, or in case of GCP or Google Cloud Platform, it's Google who is going to manage all the uh, you know machines for you. You just need to log into their website and create your own servers. But at the back end, it's nothing but just like your traditional data center only. They have a huge bunch of physical servers and cables, switches, network routers, and everything. Okay, so that's the physical definition of cloud. It's a collection of data centers managed by a cloud provider, and all the underlying things you don't have to worry about it. You can just log into a website and request your resources. Okay, users can rent resources on a pay as you use model without the upfront cost. So this is a very important consideration. Without the upfront cost, what does that mean? And also pay as you use. So any idea what that means? Anyone wants to take a shot at it? Okay, it's again something very similar to your Uber example, right? So if you travel for 10 kilometers and your time taken is like 30 minutes, your bill will be something similar to that. 10 each kilometer you will be charged, let's say 3 rupees or 4 rupees, and per 30 minutes you will have some minimum time. So that's how you will be charged, right? So is the case with cloud. For example, if you're using a virtual machine for 10 days, you will be charged only for those 10 days. Once you shut down and delete it from your particular account, it is not billed, and no upfront cost. Again, going back to the earlier example, let's say you have a very good plan to create a nice retail website. Okay, or let's say a puzzles website. You know that a lot of people are starting working from home, and you want to create online games which team members can play. Okay, from different locations they can log in and play some games. Okay, so you have this beautiful idea. You have all the material. You also written the wonderful code in Java or whatever programming language. Now where do you host it, right? So you cannot host it on your laptop. Like I said, laptops are not supposed to run 24/7. They cannot take high load. Okay, there are a lot of other restrictions also. So then what you need to do is you need to buy a server, a physical server, and put it in your home. Again, just like I told you how a company manages its servers using, you know, at least two network connections. So let's say you have a, ACT cable or Airtel broadband. That's not enough. You need to have at least two network connections, two power sources, meaning one is your public power connection, the state governments. The other one is something like your generator or a inverter. Okay, so you bought one physical server. Let's say this is about 4 GB and let's say not 4 GB, 16 GB and 8 cores or 8 vCPUs. Okay, okay, it's running well. It's popular among your friends initially. Okay, then what happened? Your friends kind of started sharing about this particular website on their WhatsApp and Facebook. So more people are started accessing your website. That means your website will receive more and more load. So it's getting overwhelmed. Now you have to buy another physical server. So physical servers are not like your, you know, pen drives or something, right? You have to go into the market, you have to place an order. It might take 2 days, 3 days. So next time you thought, okay, I will buy a big one this time. Let's say 48 GB and 32 vCPUs so that you can manage load better, or CPUs simply. Okay, cores I mean to say when I say CPUs. But again, this is the positive side when your website clicks. But if your website doesn't click, okay, but you still had to buy a physical server, and this will not cost you like 20,000 or 30,000, right? Even a simplest of physical server will cost you anywhere around 1,50,000 to 2 lakhs. Okay, so that's a lot of money, right? In INR. And you have to go for second network connection, second power source, and all these things. So you are already investing a lot of money without actually knowing if your website is going to be a hit or a fail, right? But imagine this situation today when you don't have to. Excuse me, can everyone go on mute, please? Unless you have a question.
Yeah.
Okay, so take it consider today. Okay, so if you want to try something out, okay, and you want to see how it works, you can create an account on AWS or Azure or Google Cloud Platform, or even DigitalOcean, Alibaba Cloud. There are a lot of clouds. Okay, and you can simply um, start creating your server and uploading your code and creating a DNS or your domain name and sharing it with your friends in a matter of let's say, if you're a good programmer or if you're good with DevOps, you can create in matter of minutes. Okay, under 30 minutes your website will be ready. I mean, provided you have your code already available, that's another matter. But you don't have to wait for your physical server to be delivered home. You don't have to buy storage. You don't have to buy network switches or second network connection. All these things are taken care by cloud. Okay, and let's say same example but on the cloud. Now you initially started with one server. In this case, we'll call it as virtual machine, not a physical server, and same capacity like 16 GB and 8 CPUs. Okay, it's not going well for whatever reasons, it's failing, but you still have some hope. You still have some hope, and you're saying that okay, not even 10 users are coming per day, but let me wait. So then you thought, okay, let me reduce the capacity of my virtual machine. I will decrease this to 8 GB and 4 CPUs for some days. Okay, let's say you ran this CPU, this virtual machine with this capacity for first 10 days, and you see that there is very dull traffic, no one is coming at all. Okay, and the next 10 to 20 days you're running at this capacity. Okay, so this when because this has high specs, it will cost you more. Maybe let's say it's costing you um, $10 per day. Okay, on an average. Okay, so this might cost you only $5 per day. So for the first 10 days, sorry, for the first 10 days you'll be charged $100, and for the second 10 days you'll be charged only $50, of course, right? And let's say after 30 days you thought, okay, this is not working for you. Maybe you want to take a break and you want to hire some marketing team, or you want to contact your friends and get back to it. So you simply deleted the server from your, you backed up whatever data you want to back up and you deleted after the 20th day. Now, no cost. Okay. So at the end of the month, your bill would be only $150. Okay. This is what I mean by pay as you use. Pay as you use and pay only for the resources you're using. Okay. On the contrary, let's say scenario three, your website has gone, I mean, it has become a huge hit. Okay. Let's say you are very smart and launched initially when the lockdown has started. So it has become big hit. So initially you launched with one VM, but within 10 days you know that the load is peaking up now. Now you hired same VP, same set of ones, but four VMs. Okay, same capacity each of them, but four of them. Okay, into four for the next 20 days, for instance. Okay, so that is 10 into 4, 40, 40 into 20. How much is that? 800, right? $10. So now it's $40 per day. Okay, 40 into 20, $800. So this will be your uh, bill. Okay, for this month it will be $900. Let's say the next month the demand has stabilized, in the sense not too many people are coming. Okay, then you might want to decrease to 3 VMs. Okay, because not much load is coming on. You can clearly see that CPUs are being idle. So you'll reduce the capacity to only 3 machines. Now for the next 30 days, your bill will be like how much per day? $30 per day and $900. Okay. So this way, your billing will be always proportionate to the number of resources you're using, or the amount of resources you're using. Okay. That's what we call as pay as you use model. Okay. You can stop whenever you want to. There is no upfront commitment, meaning you don't have to go to Azure and say that I'll pay you $100, give me servers. No, you don't have to pay any amount. When I say you and me also, you need not be a registered company. You can directly go into Azure and you can create your account and start using their resources. Of course, we all even get free trial for 1 month, which we'll talk about. Okay, so that's what cloud in fact is. But this is one section of the cloud. We'll see other parts of the cloud as well. Any questions so far?
No.
Is it only for 1 month trial version or 1 year?
Which one you're talking about?
The free trial version.
Yeah, Azure unfortunately offers you only 1 month of free trial. It says 1 year free from some other services, but I don't know what these services are. Technically, it's 1 month. Don't go by
No,
their
no, no.
marketing.
Yeah, after 1 month, if we have created some VMs and
Mhm,
we have been utilizing it for some days,
mhm.
will there be some cost or no?
Okay, so here is how it goes. Okay, after 1 month, if you don't upgrade, your VMs will be deleted. Not only VMs, anything you have created. Let's say you have created some storage disks, you created some load balancers, whatever you have created is deleted after your trial period is over.
Okay, after 1 month.
After 1 month, yes. They will send you
Okay.
emails within, like, um, from the last week or so, saying that upgrade or your resources will be deleted and all the stuff. And so you have to be careful about that. Okay, so once
Okay.
it's not only about 30 days, they will give you about I think it's 150 USD, or in Indian currency it's about
Yeah,
13,000 rupees of, yeah.
it is around 14,494 something.
Yeah, correct. I think they have adjusted to the inflation now. Sorry,
Yeah.
not inflation, exchange rate, but it was 13,000. Anyway, so the point I'm trying to say is, even if it's not 30 days, but you have created a lot of resources which exhausted all your 14,000, from that time, your resources will be deleted unless you upgrade. When you upgrade, they will ask you to pick up a payment method. Of course, you'll edit your, we'll come to that. We are jumping the gun. We'll come to that part later. Okay.
Okay, no issue.
Yeah. All right. Thanks. Any other questions? Okay, that's the theoretical model of cloud. Okay, but within cloud we have different services. Okay, so I have so far spoken about virtual machines that comes under IaaS. Okay, so infrastructure as a service. Okay, so what does that mean? Users manage everything from infrastructure and code. So it's it's your own um, uh, it's like your own virtual, it's like your own server, but just the underlying infrastructure is maintained by Azure. You have to deal with the operating system I mean, operating system is also pre-installed, but you have to deal with all the software installations. You have to deal with all the upgrades, patches, okay, any kind of security settings. Everything has to be managed by you. That is infrastructure as a service. One example is the virtual machine. When you create a virtual machine, you not only I mean, it will come with a preloaded operating system as per your choice. You can choose between a section of Linux operating systems or Windows operating systems. Okay. um, but on top of it, you have to install some dependencies. For example, if you want to deploy a Java application, okay, um, application that runs Java, you have to install Java runtime environment, for instance. Okay, and also you have to make sure the virtual machine is hardened in the sense, uh, it is configured in such a way that hackers or exploiters, attackers cannot get into those machines. Okay, that's the software security hardening. All these things you will have to take care of it. That's the infrastructure as a service example. Infrastructure as a service. So typically we have virtual machines, disks, and virtual networks under IaaS. Okay, so these are generic industry terms, folks. These are not related to Azure or anything, but any cloud providers might have one or more of these kinds of services. Okay, the second one is a platform as a service. All right, let's say you are a developer. You are very good at developing applications. You can develop any kind of application in a matter of few days, but you're not the operations guy. You don't want to get into deploying, I mean, managing your virtual machines, managing the runtime environments and all that. You just want to be able to deploy your code onto something and let it run. You don't want to take the headache of installing operating systems and all that stuff. In that case, you have PaaS, or platform as a service. In this case, the cloud provider not only gives you the operating system, but the required runtime, and you don't have to worry about what is running underneath it. For example, if you're running a Java application, Azure says, okay, give the code to me. I mean, he'll say upload the code or give the location where your code is, and I'll take the code and give you an URL from where your end users can directly access this. Okay, very simple. So you don't have to worry about installing software, installing upgrades and all that stuff. Okay, Azure will manage everything. Azure or any cloud provider will manage those things. Okay, so it's also called as a developer service. The reason it's called as a developer service is because developers typically prefer this one. They can directly deploy the code and not have to worry about installing patches and all that stuff. Okay, so in the case of IaaS, you have complete control. What version of operating system you want to use, what version of Java runtime you want to use. Everything is in your control. Whereas in this case, you only have to worry about development activity. Okay, you don't have to worry about the operations part, but it has high management. In the IaaS case, you need to have people to manage your virtual machines. In this case, there are no virtual machines. I mean, at least you don't see the virtual machine, so you don't have to worry. But what's the negative? Less control over infra. You cannot control which operating system version or which runtime and version you want to run. Okay, some of the common examples are Azure Web Apps, AWS Elastic Beanstalk, and platform.sh. Okay, these are some of the examples for PaaS. Okay, and next comes SaaS, and SaaS is one of those very common tools we all use every day. You all use Gmail, right?
Yes.
Google Drive, or OneDrive or Evernote. Some of these things we all use, right? So these are all in fact SaaS. Okay, so
Yep.
none of us has ever deployed anything onto these services, right? We never we never written code for Gmail or Evernote or even any kind of these services. So these are software as a service where you will directly get the software and you can start using it. Okay, so you don't have to worry about writing the code or managing the servers. They will give you a URL where you can access the website. You can go there and start using those services. Okay, when I say Gmail, not only for the personal use. Let's say you are a startup, or you know with a very with 100 people or 200 people, and you don't want to manage the Active Directory, or you don't want to manage the Exchange, like you don't want to create your own mail server. So what you can do is you can go to Google and get the Gmail enterprise subscription or business subscription, and Gmail will give you the um, permission to create your own users. For example, your company name is kkcorp.com. So for you can create users like, okay, Kiran at kkcorp.com, okay, Srinivas at kkcorp.com, or whatever username you want to create. And you can also assign people some permissions to Google Drive and other things. Okay, here the platform is managed by Google, the software is managed by Google, everything is managed by Google, but you're availing those services. Okay, some of the common examples are, as I said, Gmail, and also GitHub. For instance, GitHub is a version controls source code management tool, and there are many other examples like I told you. Okay, uh, even Office 365, which is coming up big way, Microsoft's, that's also a SaaS product where you don't have to manage anything. Only thing you need to manage is your business activity and uh, administrative access. Like you have to control the who gets what access. Okay, but no control over infra or code. If you want to add a new feature, you can raise a feature request, but you cannot yourself change it. In case of this one, if you want to add a new feature, because the code is in your control, you can add the code. In case of IaaS, everything is in your control, of course. But in this case, you don't have to worry about anything like underlying infrastructure application, or the patching or software vulnerabilities. Everything is taken care by the cloud providers. One of the very common examples that these days we are using even in corporate world is learning sites like Pluralsight or Saba or Udemy. Okay, so in case of Saba or LinkedIn Learning also, there are two ways, right? One is you can access the courses already available in LinkedIn, and second, you can also upload your own courses to LinkedIn platform for your own company. Okay, so these are what we call SaaS providers. So IaaS, PaaS, and SaaS. Okay, so in our course, we are going to focus mostly on IaaS because this is where the most of the work for a developer is there. Okay, of course, you might want to you may do some sort of PaaS work as well, platform as a service work as well, but that's not much to learn. You just need to refer the documentation and configure it. In case of IaaS, you need to understand the platform, the OS, and everything. Okay, SaaS, as I said, there's nothing you have to do there. So we are focusing on IaaS services. Okay, any questions?
Okay, so Azure Devops comes under IaaS or PaaS?
PaaS. No, in fact, it's SaaS. Azure Devops is SaaS. Okay, hold on to that question. Okay, this course is not about Azure DevOps. This course is about DevOps with Azure. Of course, we are going to learn Azure DevOps as well. But if your question is particularly about Azure DevOps, it's a SaaS solution because you are utilizing Azure DevOps and running your CI/CD jobs or whatever jobs you want to do. There is, you're not building that application. It's readily available for you, right?
Okay,
Yeah, it's a SaaS solution.
got it. So DevOps in the Azure, in the sense like even CI/CD pipelines and those things will be covered in this training sessions, right?
Yeah, we'll come to that. We'll have we have a detailed slide on what is covered in this course. Okay.
Uh, Hi Kiran, this is Ganesh. Just I have one question. If we are using IaaS means that
Hmm.
service, so for because currently we are using same thing means in what to say in process all this thing means we have our own servers and all in company wise,
Mhm,
so that
mhm.
is also it come to your IIS, correct? And pass is just
Mm,
like you have to just told that infra guys and this is my code and we need to deploy and all this thing, so that all means whatever the installation and all, that will be part of your infra guys and all, correct?
Yeah, see, the primary difference is we're talking cloud here. Okay,
Yeah,
in
cloud. Yeah,
when you talk about on-premise, these topics would not apply because you're saying that your infra guys will create them. So for them it becomes IAS, right? And
yeah. Now
there is a
also those guys also working for the installation and all. So what's
correct.
the difference then when we
Yeah,
go for bias and pass that?
yeah. See, when you have your own data center, when I say you, I'm not saying
Hmm.
you as a person or you as an engineer. Okay, I'm saying
Okay.
you as a company, as an organization.
Okay.
Okay, you
Okay.
as an organization will not have to manage any infrastructure in the first case. When I say
Hmm.
manage infrastructure, you don't have to manage the physical servers. Okay, so
Okay.
if you take any large companies like Citibank or HSBC or let's say JPMC, all these
Hmm.
things they manage their own servers. Okay, so it cannot
Hmm.
be called as infrastructure as a service. When you call infrastructure as a service, it means you're accessing someone else's service. Okay,
Okay.
you're accessing someone else's resources, but you have to deploy the software, you have to deploy the you have to choose the operating system version, you have to do the operating system patching, security fixes. When I say fixes, you might have to make some configurations so that your software, your virtual
Application.
machine is secure. Okay, here everything is virtual. Sorry, what's your name? I don't have access to the others.
Ganesh.
Yeah,
Ganesh. Yeah.
Ganesh. So Ganesh, in this case, you don't see the physical servers. Okay, when I
Yeah.
say you, your organization, not only
Okay.
your, not only you as an operations guy or a DevOps guy, your CEO or anyone is not seeing that. It's all managed by Microsoft. All right.
Okay.
You get readily available virtual machines, like I told you, with the features that I explained in the previous one. Like whenever you want to create, you create, and unlimited scalability. Today you want to go from 10 VMs to 100 VMs, you can go in a matter of minutes. Okay, from 10 VMs to 100 VMs. In physical data center, when you're managing, when your company is managing their own physical servers, hey,
Hmm.
can you go on mute for a second, please? Yeah.
Yeah. Sorry.
Yeah. So when you manage your own data center, if you have to go from 10 to 100 servers, maybe it's possible you might have some buffer, but let's say 10 different application teams want to scale up at the same time. Each of them want to go from 10 to 100 machines. Then your data warehousing team will have to start procuring, because they might not have so many physical servers available. And what if you ran out of data center? Whereas in case of cloud, they have huge data centers. So, and they also have this process of dynamically reallocating resources. For instance, today there are 100 people whose free tier account might have expired. So all those servers will be freed up and allowed for some, allocatable for someone else. Okay, so because cloud is about dynamic allocation and reallocation, they are never going to run out of resources. Okay, if some person is scaling up, there might be another person who is scaling down. Okay, so in this
Yeah.
case, yeah.
My question is not at that level, but what I'm thinking about this course, if I have the 10, because I have the 10 years of experience and I'm looking for other jobs also, and also
Mhm,
my another project are asking for DevOps and all this thing to you have to look and all. So I need to think if I have to
mhm.
work this level of work means I need to go with the infra guys, or I have to develop only this. I have to think about that costing and all. That level I am thinking from this course. So I have to work on if I will be go for the Azure or anything. So I have to think about that level, or just I have to create my application and do my work, or I have to work on this also. That's that level I'm thinking about this course.
See, in this course, okay, give me 5 minutes. You'll see what we are
Okay,
going to learn. Then you can understand. All right.
okay, okay, not an issue.
Yeah,
Thanks.
this is just an overview of what
Yeah,
cloud
yeah, yeah,
services are.
yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. So there is one example to describe about IaaS and PaaS and SaaS. Let's say the SaaS is like I'm coming from left to right. Okay, SaaS is like going. You want to have a pizza, but you don't want to. Uh, you don't want to use your own table. You don't want to use your own. Tissues or your own home. You can go out to Pizza Hut or Domino's and sit there and have pizza. That's SaaS. There, everything is managed by your pizza provider. In that case, Domino's. You just go there, use their own tables. Okay, they will give you their pizza and everything. You just eat it and come back. Okay. In case of Pass, it's like ordering the pizza to your home itself. Okay, so you still sit at your home and you enjoy the pizza. In case of IAS, what you want is, okay, you want to have just you want to customize your pizza to your own liking, but you're too lazy to prepare the dough and prepare the base. So you order you get the dough from supermarket. Okay, you get the dough and you put all the ingredients and you put it in your micro oven. Okay, that's like IAS. Okay, so in case of on premise, you also prepare your own dough. You kind of grind your own dough, or you make your own dough and make the base as well. So the only difference between IAS and on premise is that thing, right? You don't have to prepare your dough. You can get those readily available bases from supermarket, and you can get how many soever you want. Okay, that's one cheeky example. Oops, looks like there's a lot of lag.
But one question, Kiran, just
Mhm, mhm.
uh, if if the person want to sit in the restaurant and eat those pizza, then how you can relate these two type of the cloud services?
Yeah, so when let's take the example of Saba or Udemy. Okay, so let's say you you want your team to have learning courses. Okay, but you don't want to manage the servers, you don't want to create the servers, you don't want to write the software. When I say software, it's like, let's say, think about like baking. Okay, or using your own resources to build the code. You're not even writing the code. All that you're doing is you're getting admin access to the Udemy portal and giving access to whoever wants to access and letting them use it directly, right? So there is no effort for you except for you're only consuming the services, just like eating the pizza. You're consuming the services, but you're not preparing anything, not even setting up your table, right? In case of PaaS, it's like setting up your table, which means, like, let's say, writing your code. Maybe or may not be right example. In case of IAS, you are cooking everything. I mean, you're putting the ingredients. When I say ingredients, as I told you, every software, your developers write the code, but that code needs underlying software. For example, if your developers are writing Python, your virtual machines should have Python already pre-installed inside it. Okay, so all these things will be taken care by you. Okay, when I say you, your organization. In case of PaaS, those things are not required. You just set up your tables and eat your pizza. So you just deploy your code and have your application ready. Okay, so it's about the amount of effort you put into each of these things. That's the pizza example, not exactly like
Yeah, I got it. Yeah.
Okay, so in Gmail, you don't do any effort. You don't write code, you don't put your servers, you don't patch the servers, nothing, right? So that's how that's equivalent to going to Pizza Hut and eating. All right, so let's move on to Azure. What is Azure? Azure is Microsoft's cloud offering. It's one of the leading cloud providers, only behind Amazon's AWS in market share and service offerings. Okay, so not only in terms of market share, in the sense how many users are using it, but also in the number of services, it's just behind AWS. Of course, AWS is the market leader um, since it's been there from when 2006. Okay, but Azure has started a little later. Azure's infrastructure is spread across the globe in 54 regions. Now they claim it's 60 regions and about 140 countries. Azure's services span various areas such as virtual machines, storage, machine learning, IoT, big data, and security, and many, many more. Okay, so these are some of the you know um, areas that Azure into. You have many services. If you want a readily available SQL server, you can create on Azure. If you want a readily available, let's say, data analysis solution, you have it on Azure. You want to manage your websites domain names, in the sense DNS, okay, or virtual networks, everything is available on Azure. Okay, make sense? So all the above things apply to Azure, but most of the services it is offering are IaaS and PaaS, not the SaaS. Okay, so this is the Azure infrastructure. I told you, right? Cloud is nothing but it's made up of data centers. As there is a joke, there's nothing like cloud. It's someone else's computer. So cloud is nothing but we are using Microsoft's servers instead of your own servers. That's the only difference. So these are the places where Microsoft has their data centers, okay, or what we call as regions. Each of these are regions, and where you see a rhombus like thing, that means they have 2 or 3 different data centers in close proximity. Those are known as availability zones. We'll come to that later in our classes. Okay, so even in India we have West India. Yeah, West India is a location. Central India, South India, and we have it in Southeast Asia, East Asia, and these are all Chinese regions. Those with the dotted circles are announced, not yet launched. uh, they're announced in the sense they'll come up very shortly. Okay, so these are the various regions where you have your data centers. uh, does that mean I need to only create my infrastructure within South India? Not necessarily. You can create in Canada East, or you can create in Norway West. You cannot use gov clouds. Those are government clouds are different. Okay, but it's recommended that you create your servers close to where your audience are. For example, if you're creating a website for, let's say, Australian market, it's better to deploy your servers in Australia East, or Australia Southeast. And also it also meets the security compliance. For example, many governments have rules like GDPR, which mandates that data of the users of that country should reside in only that country, or in the case of European Union, only in the European Union. So if you're creating a website for, let's say, Norway users, it's better to create the servers in Norway itself. One thing, you will not have latency. Second thing, data compliance. Okay, but for you to explore, you can create in any region.
Eh, Yeah, okay, good, Kiran. Just one thing is, like, and in the market, we have so many clouds are there.
Mhm.
So, uh, which cloud servicing is very reasonable for the clients? So, on the cost wise and the security wise and the user friendly wise. So, which, for
Okay.
example, I am the client and I
Mm,
have so many clouds in the market, and which
mm,
cloud services are good? So for like, can I have 10 employees and they don't know anything on the cloud, but I need
mm,
to train them, I need to use them, but I have
mm.
very less amount on my pocket to invest on the money. So which cloud service I need to go there?
Okay, so here's the catch, right? So you have already given me some constraints, so that's a good thing to start. So if you are a small company, very small company with a limited set of people, limited resources, um, so you could explore something like a DigitalOcean cloud, because they're just coming up in the market, so they have some affordable rates with very limited range of services. Okay, um, they might be suitable for you, or but again, another consideration is how much presence they have in their regions. For example, let's say you are in South Africa, your market is in South Africa. So let's say you have only AWS and Azure, then your choice will be between AWS and Azure. Okay, both of them are highly secure. DigitalOcean is also highly secure. Okay, um, because they invested in large scales, so they'll definitely take care of their security. But of course, in cloud, security is a shared responsibility, in the sense the cloud provider will take care of security of the cloud. You have to take care of security in the cloud, meaning whatever resources you create, you have to configure them in such a way that no one can attack you. He will create resources in such a way that they cannot attack the cloud itself, but they can attack your website. Okay, if you have not properly configured, that's a different topic altogether. But if you have to choose between AWS and Azure, this is again highly opinionated, and in the sense each of them have their own opinions. For example, if you ask me, I find some features really good in Azure. For example, the concept of resource groups, where you can group all the resources together as a one particular resource group, and tomorrow if you want to delete it, you can just simply delete the resource group, and all the underlying resources are deleted with that. The organization of resources is very good in Azure, and the command line is also pretty much I mean, the way you can program it is also good. But AWS is faster in some services, like the IaaS services I can speak of. They're really faster. Okay, in terms of provisioning, the VMs will at least take 1.5 more times in Azure to deploy than in AWS. That's my personal experience also, and many friends also told me the same thing. um, but again, let's say you're a company which is already deeply invested with Microsoft, in the sense you're using a lot of Microsoft services, including Active Directory, including let's say Office 365 and many other things. Then you might get a good bargain with Azure, and they might offer you low prices. Okay, then it's a nice trade-off between um, AWS and Azure. But you are a new company starting itself, you want to go to AWS. If they ask me, I would personally recommend AWS. AWS has some beautiful features, like your Linux machines can be built per second. For example, if you're using 10 machines, in the real world scenario, what happens is your servers are dynamically changing, in the sense, as per load. At this moment you might have 10 servers, and after 1 hour only 4 servers might be there because there is no load, or let's say 6 servers might be there. So in that case, AWS offers you this concept called as per second billing, meaning your billing is not per hour, per minute. So even if your servers are turned off for so many seconds, that will not be billed for you. So there will be a lot of cost saving. Okay, and also, as I told you, a little faster response is on AWS side, and they have a matured ecosystem, a matured software development kits and everything. The only reason is they have been there from very long time. Okay, uh, and if you look at this Azure, this thing, you see there are some regions where there is only blue dot, there is no rhombus inside it. See these things? This means in this region they have only one data center. Okay, so what does that mean? One data center or one availability zone. When you have one availability zone, you get only 99.95% SLA. What is that? I'll come to that. Whereas AWS boasts of at least 3 availability zones in every region, at least 2. In some cases, they have 6 availability zones, meaning 6 different data centers within the same region. So you can create your virtual machines in 6 different availability zones, and even if the entire data center goes, you have another data center readily available in the case of AWS. Okay, so that's why they promise you 99.9% SLA all the time. You might think this is only 0.04% of SLA, but that makes a lot of difference. Okay, so high availability perspective, AWS has the thumbs up. Again, like I told you, the reason being AWS is there from a very long time, and at least half a decade before Azure. But in case of AWS, they're still coming up with some regions where they have availability zones. Um, Sorry, in case of Azure, they're still coming up with these availability zones. That's a drawback, I would say. Um, but yeah, they're picking up. They'll gradually pick up on that one as well. Okay. But again, these are my observations, my recommendations. Again, people could be very opinionated, meaning the software SRE consultants or DevOps consultants, they might find loopholes in everything I spoke about, and they might completely flip it over and say Azure is better than AWS. So it's not a very black and white solution. Sorry, who was that? Who asked the question? Hello,
Yeah, Kiran,
hello.
it's me, Rajesh.
Rajesh, yeah. So it's not a very black and white solution. When black and white answer I could give. Uh, as I told, people are opinionated about what they like, just like the debate about Java or C++ or Python or PHP. So you'll get a lot of different opinions. From my experience, I would prefer AWS. But why are we teaching Azure here? Because it's in demand. There are a lot of people who have already got trained in AWS, but very few people in Azure. And a lot of enterprise customers are moving towards Azure. Okay. Um, so the recent projects I've seen, I'm hearing even from my friends, is they're using a lot of I mean the large enterprises which have already good amount of Microsoft presence in terms of Active Directory or in terms of Office, in terms of Windows ecosystem. They are preferring to move to Azure. Okay. And the cloud migration is still going on. I mean, a lot of companies have still a lot of resources on premise, so there's a lot of migration that is supposed to happen in the coming years. Even the financial institutions like banking corporations are also moving towards that, and a lot of this is happening towards Azure. Azure is growing faster. AWS might be already well established, but Azure is moving faster than AWS. Okay. So there's more demand
Yeah,
for
yeah,
people with Azure skills.
yeah. It is
Sorry, your
very good part, but only yeah, it is very good part. And only one
mm,
point is, if I take the one data center, just now you explained about the data center. If I take
mm,
those data center and the data center is a shared with the multiple clients, obviously
correct.
it is stress, right? So
Yeah,
how they will give the security to data breach between the both clients, multiple clients, for example, like an all the MNCs are working for one under one
yeah,
data center and shared
yeah.
organized by the Azure, and how they
Mm.
will provide the security, I don't know, like, and which cloud is the more secure to like can avoid the intruders into that other network.
See, as I told you, security is again a shared responsibility. But in terms of security, you can, I mean, see, there are two parts. Again, let me reiterate that point. Okay. There is something called as security of the cloud. Okay. And security in the cloud. Okay. So attacks happen at various levels. I don't know if you have heard of the term OSI model. Okay. There are 7 layers of networks. Okay. Like you have physical layer, you have data link layer, network layer, and application layer, and all these things. Okay. So the lower layers, or the physical layer, data link layer, all these are responsibility of your cloud provider. But the application layer, they can attack you by simply sending some request to your website also. Okay. There are attacks called as SQL injections, where they simply modify the browser URL and put some code in the URL itself, very simple code, and that can alter your databases also. But those are very primitive attacks. Those are all mostly remediated, sorry. But if you create your website, if you give it to interns and they create a website and your database with very vulnerable solutions, that is also possible. Attackers can attack by simply changing the browser URL or changing a simple curl request or a REST API request, and your database can be wiped off. And Azure or Microsoft Azure, AWS, or Google Cloud Platform, no one would be responsible because it's in the cloud, it's your responsibility. Okay. But if someone attacks at the network layer, meaning they have sent these the attack layer surfaces through your network cables. Okay. Then that will be Azure's responsibility. So in the security of the cloud perspective, you don't have to worry. Both AWS and Azure and even Google have invested heavily, so that will rarely happen. It's mostly about the security in the cloud, which is each customer's liability and responsibility. Okay. And another thing about isolation, all these things have, for example, AWS has a concept called as VPC, or virtual private cloud. As the name says, it's like as if your own data center. Azure has something called as virtual network, which is isolated network from others. Okay. So these things already provide you complete isolation, so you don't have to worry about other customers peeping into your resources. That will never happen. Okay. It is a very well established system now. So it's the isolation is completely fail proof. It will never happen that your VMs can be accessible by someone. In fact, you can restrict access in such a way that even some people within your organization cannot see some virtual machines, even though they have access to the same account. Okay. So there is something called as role based access control. You can restrict access to even people within your organization. Forget about people from other organizations. Okay, so that part is clearly taken care of. Okay, so that would not be your consideration. Like you rightly said, Rajesh, the consideration should be the availability of services in that region, the cost factors, and the ease of use. These are the three things you have to see. Okay, so for example, I want to use Kubernetes services, but that's, let's say, that's not available in West US for Azure. Then I will have to definitely go and use uh, AWS EKS, Elastic Kubernetes Services. Okay, uh, but in let's say in the case of another region, you both have Azure services available and AWS services available. Then you do the cost mapping, and you see that Azure is offering at less cost. But let's say you already have all of your ecosystem in AWS, all other your resources are in AWS. Then is it really worth to go to Azure for only one service and create a big problem for all other services to establish this connectivity and everything? Okay, or there are some companies which have both AWS presence in AWS and Azure also. They have already established the connectivity between these two clouds using tools like AWS Direct Connect and Azure gateways and all these things. So they have already figured those things. So again, it's again a lot of the decisions CIOs are nothing but chief information officers who are above your CDOs, chief technology officers. So these decisions are mostly made by CIOs, very top level bosses, just one level below your CEO. And sometimes I don't understand the rationale behind their decisions. They take sometimes stupid decisions also. So no matter what you feel as an architect, if your CIO has decided to go for Azure or AWS, even though you think AWS is better, you have to, you know, work for Azure only, right? Make sense?
Of course. Yeah, correct.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, there are
of
a lot of
course. That is only.
yeah, there are a lot of factors. Yeah, I would personally say if you're starting your new organization, if you're building it from scratch, okay, go for AWS. Okay, but a lot of companies are these days moving to Azure. As I told you, I don't know what happens at the executive level, like the CXO level decisions. There might be Microsoft and they have nice deals. For example, in one of the organizations my friend works, um, they have a deal that they've signed up with Azure, and each of their IT engineers, be it in operations, be it in developers, they will get 10,000 worth of Microsoft credits every month to use Azure portal, or they will get free Microsoft Office for personal use. Okay. So this is one kind of deal. Or some people get deals where they say, okay, you'll get full Windows licenses free for how many servers you're using, how many PCs you're using. Okay, so there might be a lot of deals happening, whereas AWS might offer a completely different deal. They might say, we'll give you first 2 years full of free until this much usage limit. Like you can use 100 virtual machines per month for 1 year full free, but afterwards you have to sign 5 years contract with us. So there are a lot of things. Why is Azure picking up? Because of already entrenched Microsoft ecosystem. Like I told you, right? Microsoft Active Directory is very popular in many organizations, large scale organizations. Okay, and Windows is one commonly used operating system among multiple people. It is also a Microsoft version. Office 365 or Office, okay, is again predominantly used in the market. So these people already have long term contracts with Microsoft, so they're continuing their engagement with Microsoft only when they want to move to cloud also. Okay, when they want to move to public cloud also. These are some of the, so these things make it easier for them to integrate their own on-premise data center with Azure because they already have Azure Active Directory. AWS can also offer you those kind of services, but people are willing to move to Azure, in my understanding. Okay, so there is no clear black and white answer for which cloud provider is the best. So there are some factors you have to take into aspect which we already discussed. One thing is total cost of ownership. How much is it costing in AWS versus Azure versus on-premise? Okay, and next thing is ease of use or availability of services. Okay, let's say you are in a service like West India, a lot of services are not available within Azure, then you might want to choose AWS. Ease of use, and like I told you, other considerations like your vendor agreements and all this stuff. Anyway, let's move on. Okay, so this course is DevOps plus Azure or DevOps with Azure, not only Azure DevOps. Okay, so why am I saying this? Because Azure DevOps is one of the services offered by Microsoft, okay, which is not even part of the actual Azure cloud, but we are covering that also. Okay, this statement is redundant. This course does cover Azure DevOps. Okay, ignore this point. Earlier I used to cover Jenkins, but these days I see that more people are using Azure DevOps than Jenkins. I think, in fact, this line can be taken off. Yeah. So Azure DevOps is the name of a suite of applications such as source code repository, project management, and so Azure DevOps is like your GitHub plus Jenkins. Okay, everything combined into one place. So this course covers Azure Cloud and also Azure DevOps. Okay, Azure DevOps is a simple set of one application which gives you source code repository where developers can put their code, and you can also create your CI/CD pipelines instead of yeah. So this slide is itself is useless because we are learning about GitHub and also we are learning about Azure DevOps. Sorry about the confusion. Okay, so we have took a lot of time about cloud. Let's go into so don't worry, we are going to learn both Azure and Azure DevOps in this course. That's the important takeaway. So let's see what DevOps is all about. Okay, so DevOps is a set of software development practices that combine software development and IT operations to shorten the systems development lifecycle while delivering features, fixes, and updates frequently in close alignment with business objectives. Okay, the last sentence is very important. What is the business objective? Any business objective is, of course, to grow, but they define clearly some paths. Okay, this year I'm going to increase my engagement in so and so area. Okay, I want my customers to let's say you are a retail giant like Amazon. Okay, so you say this year I want to increase my um, new customers. Okay, so I want to do more promotions. So for that matter, what your marketing team does, they create new plans and new schemes. So what is your role as a DevOps engineer? You have to make sure whatever these new features are rolling in terms of your application features, you have to make sure they are deployed very quickly. Okay, so as it says, DevOps is not a single technology. It's a set of practices. Okay, DevOps says that you not what to do, but how to do. Like how well organized you should do to shorten the systems development life cycle. What is systems development life cycle? So to create any application, you any system for that matter, even a metro rail system in your town or a shopping mall, you have these phases: plan, uh, design, build, test, and operate. Right? You take off any system, these are the five phases. So in software also you have these phases. First, initially planning what product you want to launch or what features you want to add. Then design, so what technology you are going to use, where you are going to deploy this, and then you actually build the code and deploy the code, and then finally you test the code if it's everything is working, and then you finally release into the market. So from the plan phase to operate phase, this time should be shortened. It should not take a very long time. From the time someone comes with a plan, it has to be designed faster, it has to be built faster, it has to be tested faster, and also deployed faster. So that's what it means to shorten the life cycle. Okay, how do we do that? Using various methodologies and various tools also. So if you look at DevOps from a pillar model, these are the various ways in which, of course, you need to have your infrastructure and operating system as the base. When I say infrastructure, it's your it could be your cloud provider, it could be your own data center, which comprises of again the same things like servers, data disks, network cables, routers, switches, and all these things. And operating system, of course, you have to understand how operating system works, otherwise you cannot manage these systems, right? And then source code management. Source code management is everything is automated, everything is put in the form of code. Okay, in the form of scripts. So throughout your all the phases, you will manage them in a source code repository, something like GitHub. Okay, so it's not like simply a document you read and do steps. You have to run code to build everything. That's what we call these days we hear this concept called as XAAC. X stands for everything. Everything as code. Anything you take it, it should be in the form of code. Meaning you have to deploy a virtual machine. You don't go through the portal and click on these things and create it. You have to do it through code. Okay, that's the funda. So we have infrastructure as code as the first pillar. So how do you build your infrastructure? You have to build 10 servers. You cannot simply go into Azure portal and click on each of the links and give the detail, fill in the details and next and create. That will take a lot of time. You have to write code for that. Okay, that's first part, infrastructure as code. Then software configuration. Your servers are ready, but as I told you, your developers will develop the code. But for that code to run on these servers, your server should have some prerequisites. Okay, like if they have to deploy a Python code, you need to have Python pre-installed on the server. Maybe some dependencies like some modules have to be installed. Okay, or if it's a Java application, you have to install software like JRE or Tomcat or whatever it is. All this is software configuration. So again, these things should also be done in an automated fashion. You shouldn't kind of log in and do these steps manually. There has to be concept called as software configuration management that forms the second pillar. And the third pillar is CI/CD. Earlier it was called as build and release. Now it's called as CI/CD, continuous integration and continuous delivery. So what does it mean? Your developers write code every day and put it in your source code management. It could be GitHub, it could be Azure Devops, it could be Bitbucket or whatever tool it is. But the next step is to take the code and compile it or make it into an executable format. For example, if it's a Windows application, you have to make it as a .exe or .msi. And the next step is CD, continuous delivery, put it in the servers. So your developers should not worry about what's happening after they deploy the code. After they after they upload the code, it has to be automatically picked up by some system like Azure Devops or Jenkins and deployed into the servers automatically, so that the developers can check any amount of code immediately and they get the feedback immediately because it's automatically integrated and deployed into the servers, so they get immediate feedback. So the third pillar is CI/CD, continuous integration and continuous delivery. So you have created your infrastructure with infrastructure as code. You have configured the prerequisites using software configuration. You have built the tool with CI/CD. What's next? Next stage is you have to maintain this, right? So once the application is built, see, in IT industry, you go with this axiom that systems always fail. Okay, so no matter how well you build, no matter in which cloud you build, systems will go down due to various reasons. Okay, so you have to always have monitoring system and alerting system which will alert you as soon as there is a failure. Okay, as soon as you get any failure, you have to get an alert saying that so and so website is not working or so and so web server is not responding, so someone can log in and fix it. Okay, so this is how your DevOps is in a nutshell. So in all these cases, we use some sort of automation. Okay, so infrastructure as code is nothing but automating your infrastructure creation. So how do you create virtual machines? You have to log into the, you don't have to log into the virtual machine, the Azure portal. You should simply run some code from your own machine and it should deploy the servers on the cloud. Software configuration, you have to deploy, let's say, Apache, which is a web server, on 10 servers. You don't have to log into each of these 10 servers and download the software manually and install. Instead, you have to use some code to deploy this Apache's Apache software in these 10 servers. CI/CD, every time developer makes new changes, you should not do anything manually to take the code and put it in the servers. It has to be automated. And finally, monitoring also, you can automate certain things. Okay, and for all these things to learn, of course, you need to understand the infrastructure, okay, and the associated operating system. So in our case, we are going to cover all these pillars. Okay, and also in case of infrastructure, these days, apart from virtual machines, you are also hearing the word called as containers or Docker. You might have heard of word Docker, right? So we'll also focus on that part. Okay, and to maintain everything, as I told you, all these things are maintained in the form of code. So you need to have a source code management, which we'll learn in this course, we learn GitHub in this course. So infrastructure, we are learning Azure services. Operating system, we are learning Linux. Okay, why Linux? Because Linux is predominantly used in servers. Windows might be predominant in desktop operating system for individual users, but uh, for operating system use in the servers, it's always one version or the other version of Linux operating systems. Okay, in fact, my laptop that you're seeing right now is also a Linux machine, which is running Debian 10. Okay, um, so this forms our DevOps home with all these pillars. Okay, any questions?
Hi, so I'm from a separate domain. So any prerequisites for me to understand this course?
Durga, we will come to that. Okay, I have those things covered. Yeah, right. So if you want to take a detailed view of DevOps, right? So what is it? It's a culture that aims to. What is DevOps? Okay, so we talked about these tools, but that's from the practical perspective. But from a theoretical perspective, it's a culture that aims to create coordination between development, QA, and operations. So back in the day, what used to happen is you have a development team. Okay, so this is so back in the day, you have something called as a dev team and an ops team, right? So dev team is here. They write code, okay, and let's say this is your ops team, okay. They are responsible for managing your servers, networks, and everything. So these people used to work in silos, in the sense separate isolation. So let's say development team is working on a new application, and they have started writing code. It's they worked on for 2 months, and they have to release it on uh, so they have been working from, let's say, December, and they have to release by 1st April. So just 1 week before 1st April, they come to ops team and say, hey, we written this new application, just deploy in your servers. So they give the code to ops team. Ops team installs in the dev environment. You have multiple environments. You cannot simply run on production directly. First you install it on dev environment, and ops team says it's failing, and they tell the dev team, no, it's not working. Dev team says, no, we tested on our machines, it's working, it's your fault. So this is what we call it as tossing over the wall. They just throw it out of the wall and say, it's your responsibility, take care of it, we don't know anything. Okay, in the middle you of course have QA teams. Quality assurance teams work with both dev teams and ops team, mostly with the dev teams. So sometimes QA teams are considered as part of dev teams more than ops teams. Okay, so quality assurance is what they do. They do testing. They test the code, and they also test the application once it's deployed. So this used to happen. They used to throw over the wall and say, ops team, it's your responsibility, fix. Ops team tries to deploy it, it doesn't work. They again push it back, saying to dev, it's not working. Dev says, it's working on our machines, something's wrong with your servers. Maybe the dev team was using some kind of let's say in their own laptops they're using Java JRE 8.9, they're using JRE 7.6 or something like that. So there is a conflict there. So, and they also don't know till the last hour, so they are in a fix now. They have to suddenly dev team gives them requirements. Okay, you need to have these tools and these many servers ready. So they are running helter skelter. So the DevOps is all about bringing these teams together. Okay, meaning from day zero. When I say day zero, from the first day of your planning, all the teams will be on board. So not only ops team will know what's happening, they will also be part of the planning. So when they decide, okay, so the dev architect will prepare the plan. Okay, we are going to build a Java application, we are going to use MySQL as a SQL database, we are going to use so and so things, and your cloud architect will give, okay, excellent, let's use these cloud let's use Azure for this one. We are going to use Azure virtual machines. For SQL database, we are going to use a managed service like Azure SQL servers, which is a past solution again. So these things will be decided from day zero. So everyone is on sync. Everyone is on sync, so they know what's happening, and in this way, you'll aim to take it faster to the market. Okay, So your products will be released faster, right? So that's what DevOps is all about. Sorry, where is it? Why do I have so many windows open? Okay, and what is the aim of DevOps? You bring all the teams together, but what does it mean? Aim of adopting DevOps culture is to build and release software quickly and maintain applications with high availability and resilience. Hello, can you all hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, I thought I lost you. Okay, so good. You built an application really quick and really faster. Now what? Okay, you have to maintain this application so that it never, I mean, not that it never goes down, but even when it goes down, it is recovered real quickly. Okay, that's what we call it. High availability is no matter, it has to have very less downtime. Okay, and also resilience. Resilience is, as I told you, it's a given in the IT world that systems fail. But when systems fail, you have to get them up faster. That's resilience. What it's not, what's DevOps is not really. So people kind of throw all kind of terminologies around DevOps. I'm learning DevOps, but you don't learn DevOps. You implement DevOps. Okay. So DevOps is not a single technology or a tool. It's not like your Selenium. It's not like your Java or JavaScript or even VMware. It's a culture. It's a practice. Okay, but why are we teaching DevOps? As I told you, I'm not teaching DevOps. I'm teaching the DevOps tool set and also how they are implemented in your life. Okay, I mean, sorry, in the real world. Um, so again, DevOps is to be practiced across your organization, both by development team, QA team, and also, but of course, DevOps team is also there. Theoretically speaking, in single, I mean, in simple theoretical terms. When I say theoretical terms, like when you talk about Telugu, you refer to Balasubramaniam's references, right? Similarly, if you talk to someone who is very particular about these things, they say DevOps is not even a job role. Meaning, DevOps is a practice, but you don't have DevOps engineers. But that's a different fact that in real world we have DevOps engineers. There are teams called as DevOps teams as well. Okay, there is another similar role which is known as SRE, Site Reliability Engineering. Have you heard of it? SRE, Site
Yes.
Reliability Engineering. Yeah, so this is also very similar to DevOps engineer role. But what's the difference is DevOps is particularly focused on taking the product, I mean, build and till the release part. So SRE is all about maintaining the stability of the application. Okay, but again, these two are very much interlapping. Okay, overlapping. Okay. Um, so one team might have DevOps, but they might be also doing the SRE work. Another organization might call their team as SRE, but they might be doing all the DevOps related activities as well. So there is no clear demarcation between these two things. So the point I'm trying to make is you could be eligible for both DevOps and SRE roles, provided you understand the subtle differences and also the application part. Okay. So this is a messy thing. Let's ignore this one. So I wanted to create one thing where you will understand what we are covering in each of these sections, but this did not really work well. Okay. Anyway, I mean, these are all the various tools available in the market. Uh, So, coming to our curriculum, our course, okay, we understood that DevOps is a culture that aims to bring DevOps development teams, operations team, and QA teams together so that they can build software faster and maintain with high availability and resilience. That's DevOps. But for the DevOps to work, it's not easy to do that, right? Just but you have the people, you have set up them as a single team, they're working in close tandem, but how do you achieve these goals? How do you make sure your product is released faster to the market? For that, what do you need? You need a tool set. You need people who understand this tool set, their application, and you know uh, to to kind of deploy them at the right place. So for that, the base, as I told you, if you refer to the above diagram, the main thing is your infrastructure and operating system. So we're starting with the operating system. Of course, some things I haven't mentioned here is in the first week we are going to cover the basics of IT architecture models, okay, and the networking models, which are very important. I'm not sure if many people teach that as part of DevOps courses, but I'm going to cover the basics of networking, the basics of IT architecture, distributed systems, and all these things that I haven't mentioned here. So we are going to cover operating systems. I mean, as part of operating system, we are going to cover Linux, or what is known as GNU Linux. Okay, it's not one operating system. There are multiple operating systems like Red Hat and Ubuntu, but we'll focus on both Ubuntu and Red Hat. Okay, so we'll understand the file system of Linux systems. We understand the navigation, the editors, packaging in the sense software applications, process and service management. The reason we have to learn all these things is in your Linux servers, everything is managed through a command line utility. Okay, just like this. Mine is also, as I told you, my own machine is also a Debian machine, which is a Linux machine, but I have a full-fledged graphical user interface because this is my personal computer. I have all the start menu like your Windows only. But when you're going to manage servers, you have to manage everything through command line. You will not have browsers, you will not have command line utility. I mean, file managers and everything. Everything has to be managed through this thing called as terminal. Okay, so that's why we learn about all these things as part of your operating system. Of course, we'll also learn scripting also. Okay, so we learn a Linux operating system. Then the cloud part, of course, as I told you, that's the key of our key part of our course. So we are going to learn about account management. How do you create account? How do you grant access? All these things, that which is part of IAM again, identity and access management. The resource groups part, VNets, VM, storage, DNS. So these might look very simple, but each of them has very they have very depth in each of these. For example, when you learn VNets, you will learn about firewall rules, subnetting, um, and load balancers. Everything is covered as part of networking. And as part of your virtual machines, how do you automate creation of virtual machines? How do you create a Linux machine, Windows machine? A lot of stuff. And storage. We learn about different type of storages. How do you manage DNS on Azure? All these things we are going to learn. Okay, and infrastructure as code, right? Okay, now we know Azure, but as I told you, you will never do things manually. Initially, of course, we learn each thing how to do manually through portal or Azure website. But going forward, I mean, as we progress, we will try to create everything, not try to, we will create everything through code. So as part of infrastructure as code, we are going to learn Terraform. Azure has its own command line utility, which is called as Azure CLI, okay, through which you can manage your resources from cloud. We learned that also. Azure also has its own infrastructure as code tool known as ARM templates, Azure Resource Manager templates. But we are not going to learn that because Terraform is better used widely in the market. It can be used for multiple clouds for both Azure, AWS, GCP, GitHub, and a lot of other resources. You use Terraform to deploy infrastructure. So today you're learning Azure, so you'll know Terraform and you know how to deploy resources. Tomorrow you might want to learn AWS, and even then Terraform will come to your use to deploy resources on AWS as well. Software configuration management, there are a lot of tools in the market which will help you to automate configuring your VMs, your servers. You have Chef, you have Puppet, you have Microsoft SCCM, but among all these things, one thing stands apart, which is really very strong, is Ansible. Ansible is Red Hat's one, but it's an open source one. Okay, so Ansible is a very powerful software configuration management tool. So we'll understand Ansible, how to install, how to configure, what are ad hoc commands, what are modules, playbooks, variables, and about inventory also we'll learn about. I mean, don't worry about these terms. I'm just I because if you're contacting someone to say that okay, this person is teaching these topics, is it okay? So that's why I put these things. So it's okay if you don't understand right now also. Okay, and source code management, we'll learn about Git and GitHub, how to install Git and how to configure GitHub. What is a pull request, tracking, versioning, branches, merges, all these things we'll learn. And another important thing is source code management will be important for everyone. Tomorrow, even if you choose to be in testing network or a data scientist network or a data scientist path or a testing path or even developer path, okay, you have to understand these things very I mean, if you are in IT industry, doesn't matter even if you're into project management, source code management is one thing you need to understand. Okay. Okay. Next thing is continuous integration and delivery. As I said, I used to teach Jenkins. Sorry, this is not updated. I made some changes last minute yesterday, but forgot about this thing. Okay. So we're going to go with Azure DevOps only. Okay. Maybe I'll touch upon Jenkins, but focus on Azure DevOps because as I see that a lot of people not only using Azure, but for on-premise also they're using Azure DevOps. More and more people are using Azure DevOps. Okay, so we'll focus on Azure DevOps in our course. There is no installation or configuration. It's simply because it's a SaaS solution, you don't have to install and configure. You'll understand about other jobs, of course, how to integrate with GitHub and other things. So Docker, we'll talk about containers. As I said, containers are the next level of virtualization after virtual machines. So we'll understand about installation and configuration. What is a container? What is an image? How do you build images? How do you use volumes, image registry, which is Docker Hub, and how to write a Docker file, all these things. Container orchestration, I will give you just an overview. We are not going to do anything on Kubernetes. Just I will tell the concepts of Kubernetes. The reason being, I don't want it make it too complicated and too difficult to understand when you're learning all these things. Okay, Kubernetes is a very advanced topic, but the reason I'm giving you the overview is because once you get comfortable with many of these topics, you can go on to Kubernetes. Okay, so I just give the overview, architecture, and all these things. And monitoring and alerting, of course, we are using Azure, so we'll refer to Azure Monitor. How does Azure Monitor work? How does what is this? Sorry, guys. It's called as regression. I make some changes and some issues come to my slide from other things. Okay. So you have a properly working slide, then you try to make some. You have a properly working code, and then you try to make some changes. New bugs come up. That's called regression. So that's what happened with my slide. Some things have changed. Okay. Sorry. So we're going to learn about Azure Monitor as part of our monitoring solution. Okay. So this is I know this is what you are here for, to understand what topics again. So let me rephrase. So we are going to learn about IT architecture, networking concepts like subnetting and virtual networking, and we'll understand about DNS concepts in the first week. Then we'll understand Linux operating system, and then we'll go to Azure, and then we understand Terraform, how to write code in Terraform, Ansible for software configuration management, Git and GitHub, and Azure DevOps for CI/CD. Containers, we learn Docker and Azure Monitor. As things are again, for example, if you want to learn Ansible, you need to know. I mean, Ansible can be run only from Linux operating systems, not from Windows operating systems. Similarly, Docker is completely based on Linux only. That's why we are learning Linux. Okay. So yeah, this is what we are going to cover. Of course, at each stage, I will teach how these are practically applied in real world, and how they are integrated with the other services. Okay. So before I proceed to the next section, any questions on the curriculum?
Yes. So this can we like, are you going to show us like implementing this Terraform or Ansible everything on Azure DevOps as well, like instead of doing it separately?
Okay.
Uh,
So what do you mean by showing it on Azure DevOps? Could you be clear?
so we can deploy an application like an infrastructure using Terraform, right? So can
Yeah.
we do the same? Anyways, we can do the same from Azure DevOps using CI/CD pipelines as well. So,
Yes. Yes.
like, are you going to importing the? Are you going to show us like importing this Terraform code into Azure DevOps or using this? I'm not exactly. I don't know exactly what the topic is, but
Yeah.
like. Are we going to importing this Terraform code in Azure DevOps and using the CI/CD pipelines? Uh,
Okay.
are we going to deploy an
Yeah. Sure. So let me tell you this. Okay. So since we are learning and not implementing here, we will have to do everything in a piecemeal manner, meaning we have to learn everything in chunks. First we understand, so even before everything we are doing it on Azure, folks. All these things you're not going to do anything on your own machines. I mean, of course you will use your own machine to access Azure virtual machines, but most of the things we are going to do it on cloud only, be it Azure or in Azure Devops or GitHub. These are some of the, or Docker Hub. Okay, these are some of the SaaS solutions. Docker Hub is another SaaS solution. Azure Devops is a SaaS solution. GitHub is also a SaaS solution. We are going to use all these things as part of our, so nothing is going to be on your own lab, okay, meaning on your machine. You just access them from your laptop. Of course you would need a laptop, but everything is configured on cloud, and we learn things in a, you know, everything as a chunk. First we learn, first even before we start Linux operating system, we have to understand how to create a Azure VM, because we are practicing everything on Azure. We are not creating a virtual machine on your own laptop. We are creating a virtual machine on Azure. So first we learn how to create a virtual machine. Then we'll start the Linux operating system basics and all that. Then we again learn some other advanced topics. Then I might come back to some Linux topics. Okay. Then we'll teach Terraform. So first when I teach Terraform, I'll teach Terraform from, you know, your own machine, how to deploy Terraform and create servers on Azure. Then I'll teach Ansible, and for Ansible, we'll use one of the Azure virtual machine. I'll teach the basics from there, because you cannot do it from Windows machine. We will do it from a Azure virtual machine. Then even before we come to Terraform, of course, I'll teach Git and GitHub, because we need to share our store our code in that location. Okay. Then when we come to Azure DevOps, the focus is about CI/CD. CI/CD is about managing your code and all that thing. But definitely, I can show you a pipeline in Azure DevOps, which will leverage Terraform and deploy code. Okay, so it's like automating deployment of Terraform using Azure DevOps. Yes, I will show you a pipeline. Okay, but even before that, we will learn how to do it from our own machine. Okay, pipeline is like automation. I mean, automation of automation, of course. But before that, we'll learn how to do it from our own machines. Okay, so I'll show you one pipeline for Terraform. I will, in the same pipeline, maybe I'll also use Ansible also. Okay, so Docker also, I don't have a pipeline which will show you the entire, you know, workflow, because again, look at these topics, right? For most of you, these might be new, so you're already a little bit overwhelmed. I try to take it slow and, you know, take it, make sure that you understand every bit and component, but I don't want it to make too overwhelming for you by teaching a lot of things. If you folks know, in Telugu they say Anna Prasanna Roje Avakaya Annattu, meaning the day you're being fed, the first day a baby is fed, you don't feed him the pickles, right? So it's like that. So I don't want to make it overwhelming. I'll teach every component individually, and then I'll also teach you how to integrate this stuff and how these things are integrated together. All right, make sense?
Yes, Kiran.
Okay, so any other questions?
No, I'm good from my side.
Okay, so now
Yeah, as
the
I
other,
asked,
yeah,
yeah,
please
yeah,
go ahead.
please carry on. Like I will ask in the last.
Okay, sure. So it's kind of from the frequently asked questions, I framed some things. Okay, what should you have to join this course? So I'll cover everything from requirements to, you know, even personal requirements. So you need to have a computer, of course, desktop or laptop doesn't matter. You need to have full rights over, because you will need to install some software like Git Bash, which will help you to download, which will help you to connect to Azure virtual machines. And the recommended size is 4 GB and i3 or a quad core one. Even if you have 2 GB laptop, also fine, but you might be a little frustrated sometimes. But everything is done on cloud, so it shouldn't matter much. And subscriptions, what are the requirements? So you will sign up for a Azure free tier subscription, and don't do it today, even if you're joining the course. Don't do it today, because the first week, as I said, we are going to focus on topics like IT architecture, the networking part, and you know, DNS and all these things. In the second week, after 2 days, we are going to start creating virtual machines on Azure. So then you can start creating your subscription. The reason being, our course might extend beyond 2 months, and these silly thing is Azure subscription is only good for 1 month. Okay, unlike AWS, which gives you 12 months of free subscription. Anyway, so one thing, you need to have a free tier subscription. And another catch here is, unlike AWS, you would need a credit card to sign up. If you have debit card, it doesn't work. Okay, so if you're someone who is financially well disciplined, unlike me, and don't maintain credit cards, I appreciate you, but you need to find a person who has a credit card to sign up for this one. Okay, that's one part. So the first month you will practice Azure and everything, but of course our course is going to second month also. Then you need a backup Azure subscription. So what sometimes Azure does is, it will not let you create a secondary account from your home IP address or using the same debit card, same credit card. So in that case, you'll need to find a friend or a cousin or or your brother living in some other home, or you know, and ask him to create an Azure subscription for you, secondary account. Okay, and he can give you access by adding your email address. I'll show you how that can be done within the first month. So you can walk him through those steps. Or another thing is, if you have a friend who is working in Microsoft or Microsoft partner, they might get some accounts with free subscription. So ask them to give them access to their portal, their subscription. That's also possible. Okay, but you need to have at least two free tier accounts, one after the other, not the same time. Okay, so after the first month you need to create a secondary account, and mostly you will not be able to create from your home account and same credit card. It worked for some people, but some people said it's not working even if they're trying a different credit card and different email address. So you might have to ask your brother, sister, or anyone who can help you to create a secondary account. So what are the other services you need to sign up? All of these are free services. Like, you need to sign up for GitHub, Docker Hub, and Freenom. Freenom is a website where you can create your free website for 3 months. Like, I mean, it will not give you like rajesh.com, but rajesh.tk or something. You can get some domain. Why do we need to understand how DNS works? Okay. So Freenom is a service. These are all free services anyway. GitHub, Docker Hub, and Freenom. And maybe, if of course I forgot to include, you also need to have Azure Devops. Azure Devops is a free subscription, nothing to pay, no debit card, nothing is required there. You're good there. Okay. Of course, to create all these accounts, don't use your personal accounts. Maybe create a new account, like, your name, DevOps at the rate of gmail.com or something, or even better, outlook.com, because all of the for your Azure subscription and also for your Azure Devops subscription, you might need a Microsoft account. I mean, you can create a Microsoft account with your Gmail also. I'll show that thing as well. But if you create an outlook.com email also, that's good. So software, what software do you need on your local machine, on your virtual machine? Okay. We will install Git Bash for sure. Git Bash is actually a source code version control tool, but for Windows, it will also offer you the easy way to connect to your virtual machines, Linux virtual machines. Okay, people running on Mac, you don't have to install Git Bash. You already have terminal, um, which is like this, like console. Okay, command line utility. I'm also using a Linux machine. I don't have to worry about that. But people on Windows, you need to install Git Bash, and no matter which operating system you are on, you need to install this source code editor called as Visual Studio Code. Okay, it will help you to draft code easily for Terraform or Ansible or even Docker files. It will help you to write easily. Okay. From a personal perspective, someone asked, I'm from a different background, and what is this? So personally, I feel, uh, if you're from non-IT background, it's really difficult, but you can scale up. If you're in IT background, but let's say in production support or quality assurance, it's a little easier, but you still need to do these things. You need to have appetite for learning. So you need to have that urge to learn every day, and quality time and participation. You have to participate in the calls. I mean, not just put, some people like turn on the call on, I mean, join the call from their iPad, just relax and listen through the class. Or some people, and we give recordings after every class. After the class is done, you will be sent recording. But you can follow the recording in 1 odd days when you are not able to join. But if you join the class, actively participate, actively ask me questions, okay, that will help me to answer your questions. And the more you ask, the more I tend to teach, because each of these topics that we discussed is deep and wide. So yeah, the more you participate, the more better for both of us. Okay, what skills do you require? Okay, it would be great if you already know Linux or programming, but even if you don't know them, it's not a hindrance, because I'm going to start everything from scratch. Okay, so these are like your prerequisites. Okay, I think I'll share this slide with the career IT folks. They will share it with you. These are the requirements. Okay, I'll take a pause for any questions.
Like by learning this course and actively practicing daily,
Mhm.
can we able to crack an interview on our own?
Okay, yeah, that's the next question I'm obviously coming to. Thanks for asking. See, if you're already working in IT, but in a support role or an operations role, there are two factors in favor of you. One thing, because generally when you are relieved from your current organization, your role will be like, assistant, associate engineer or something like that, but not exactly the day-to-day job you do. They don't mention your quality assurance engineer or something, unless, I mean, mostly, right? So you could say that for the past few years, I was working in QA role, but for the past 2 years, I moved to DevOps role. And that will make sure that you have the experience covered. And also, then from what you learn and what you implement, you can do justice to that part. Okay, there will be a lot of rejections initially, because as I told you, it's a very wide area. The IT landscape is very wide. We are covering only a subset of tools, and each company might have its own requirement, and some people might even look for your programming skills. Yeah, one thing I did not cover is we'll cover, as part of scripting, we learn bash scripting or Linux shell scripting. Um, so but some people also might want you to know Python. Okay, so those things will be fine. See, in DevOps world, you should never get dejected when you're rejected, because each organization has its own use cases. You'll find your own organization. You have to be patient. Okay, and not immediately after the course, you have to continue practicing these things for at least 2 to 3 months. Read lot of blogs, go through LinkedIn, see the various profiles. And another important aspect is network with your friends. If you have friends who are working in a job role similar to DevOps or SRE, sit with them or virtually join a call. Ask them to explain. I mean, some people will not explain because client confidentiality and other things, but ask them to explain what they are doing in their day-to-day life. How are they maintaining their source code? How are they maintaining their CI/CD? Even if they don't show their original code, they can give you an idea, so you can implement that thing again by yourself. Okay, that's one part. And another important thing is, we have at least these 8 9 topics, right? So you need not be a champ in all these things. No one is. Even I'm not champ in all these things. Let's say, but some things are bare minimum. Like as I told you, version control. Uh, Even today, when I interview people, if they don't know much about Git and GitHub, I kind of don't prefer them, even though they are good on other topics. Also, similarly on Linux operating system, you need to be at least a 6 or 7 in these things. And of course, cloud, you'll learn very well those things. But let's say out of these two things, you know one thing very well, the other thing, okayish, I'll still consider if I'm the interviewer. Okay, because I don't expect you to know everything out of everything, but you have to be 8 out of 10 at least on two topics. Okay, be it CICD, uh, or IAC, or Ansible, anything. Okay, but at least a 6 on Git is very important. Like you need to understand the basics and everything on Linux operating system and Git. Okay, these are basics. You cannot avoid those things. And whatever you learn, and at least 8 out of 10 on. I mean, what do I mean by 8 out of 10? It's your own rating. No one else is rating you. Uh, but you have to be so confident about it. Okay, so, and also remember, guys, when you're going to interview, it's not like you could just throw it from your memory and say that, okay, you do these things in Ansible. If I am interviewing someone, I find him, I'm not very sure if he's really good at something. I will ask him to write down the code on the chat. Okay. Or I'll ask him to share the screen and write some code. Okay. So on hands on is very important. Listening to classes is not only solution. I'll tell you honestly, I find it a little disturbing also. A lot of folks joining my courses, they listen to classes every day, but they don't practice at all. No point in that. And also after the course is done, you need to practice at least for 2 to 3 months. All this while following blogs, following your friends, following LinkedIn, watching videos on YouTube. You have to keep constantly engaged. It's like preparing for your MSET. People from Andhra Pradesh will relate to that. It's like preparing for your MSET. And also, unlike your MSET, it's not done once you get a seat in your engineering college, right? You have to constantly learn even in your job. Okay. So I'll tell you my example only. I've always used Terraform in my previous organizations. Even when clients came, I could convince them that Terraform is better. But now my current client wants to use ARM templates only. So I learned about it and I'm deploying it. Okay. So it's always a learning. So don't believe those people in Sri Chaitanya and Narayana who said after inter everything will be good if you get good MSET rank. That's not right. You have to learn every day. Yeah. So coming back to the point, you have to practice rigorously for 2 months, spending 2 to 3 hours every day. I don't know how you do that. Even if you break for some days, you have to come back and start learning those things. Okay. So again, these challenges will come. You might run out of Azure free tier subscription, but if you're seriously interested in getting a job, you have to go for pay as you go account, which will you might get a bill about like 1,500 or 2,000 every month. That's fine. That's investment for your future. Okay. Only this Azure only you'll invest, not on other things. Okay. So you'll get comfortable. Hands on. Practice is the solution. Okay. So I'll tell you another example. Why do you need hands-on? In an interview, they might ask you what is 2 plus 2. Okay. But you have never done math in your life. You just heard about people doing these sums. So they say, I mean, just a random example. Okay. So you say that, okay, 2 plus 2 is 4 very confidently. The interviewer, punctures your confidence immediately. He laughs at you. 2 plus 2 is 4. Where did you learn this? It should be 5. Then you have never done math. You have never put it on a paper and did 2 plus thesis because he's the interviewer. He's always in the commanding position. Then you might say, oh, maybe I'm wrong. 2 plus 2, I think it's 4. Maybe I'm wrong. So you'll come to maybe I'm wrong. So that will happen with interviewers also.
I guess your voice is breaking in between.
Hello?
Yeah, can hear now.
Okay, sorry. Okay. Yeah, so the point I'm trying to say is once you practice, you'll get confident. Once you get confident, you'll be able to do interviews in a better way. 2 to 3 months of practice after the course and also practicing every day through the course, okay, will definitely get you the right break. Even if it's internal opportunity or an external opportunity, doesn't matter. You'll get the right break. Internal in the sense you might be in an operations role and you might be moved to a DevOps role if you get the right opportunity. Okay, so yeah, let me wind up with this slide. So learn, implement, excel. That's the way forward. Okay, so it's this course is aimed for both freshers in the sense you need not be a fresher to the industry, but fresher as a just college graduate, but also someone who is fresher to IT industry, and also to those who are already working in IT and covers a wide variety of processes and technologies. This course aims to equip you with the right amount of theoretical and practical knowledge of DevOps practices and tools. Just learning the tools itself is not enough. You need to understand the theoretical perspective. Just learning theory is also not good. So we have the right mix of both these things. Okay, while this course offers a lot to learn and upskill, it's your enthusiasm to learn and practice that takes your career to the next level. Okay, so that's it from the demo. If you still have any questions, I'm here. Yeah, so the course timings are here 7 to 8, but be prepared to be there till 8:15, 8:30 sometimes. Sometimes it goes on till 8:45 because I don't want a break in the continuum. Sometimes I might be on a topic, and yeah, and it's demo. No matter how many times I'm doing, there might be some hiccups here and there. Sometimes we stretch beyond 8 also. Okay, and only weekdays, Monday to Friday. Very rarely on weekends, but I generally don't prefer. I'm sure you also don't prefer. Okay, and hard, strictly speaking, uh, it's a 2 months course, but I don't set a hard frame for myself, or because as I told you, the more you get interested, the more you ask questions, the sessions might be longer. So I plan Ansible. Let's say I have planned to teach Ansible in 3 days, but you come up with some interesting question, or someone asked me to show this in a pipeline, so I might as well try to show it to you. So it might take about 8 to 10 weeks, or even more sometimes. Okay, like I said, I don't really set as a hard timeline. Okay, questions?
Yeah, one more current. Suppose like if we are discussing on a specific topic, let's say Terraform. So, like, are you going to help us like in an interview? Like, what will be asked on Terraform? Like,
Yes, yeah. That's a good question. Since I have attended a lot of interviews and I take interviews these days as well, I will definitely tell you some commonly asked questions. Okay, but again, see, if I'm doing an interview, I do it from your resume. I started from your resume, what you have written in your resume, and I ask the leading questions. Okay, you say something about Terraform, I ask more questions related to that. Okay, so I cannot completely give this, but kind of, uh, yeah, every topic I kind of stress on the important things, or those things that might be asked in the interview. But do I have a specific list of interview questions? No, I don't intend to create one. That's like your question banks in college. That's not recommended. Second thing, do I help you with your resumes? No. Okay, I don't maintain a repository of resumes. So, but if you plan to seek some help, you can draft your resume and send it to me, and I can suggest what's good and what's bad. Yeah, but I don't have a bunch of resumes that I can share with you. I'll share the presentations, I'll share some notes on GitHub which I have, and my notes is always like work in progress. I'm adding new notes to every batch, and you will have the access to those notes throughout your, I mean, when I'm till the time my repository is there, it's there, so you can always refer to my notes. Okay, there are some presentations that I share with you, that also you could go through, but more than presentations, the notes will be useful for you.
uh, yeah. So all these things will be covered from basics and practical wise as well, right?
Yes. So everything is, see, after the initial discussions, everything will be hands on. I don't believe in PowerPoint presentations and all that, or simply taking screenshots and asking you to follow those like tutorials. I teach everything hands on only. Okay, every day it's like I'm doing it for my own project. I show it to you right from the scratch. Okay, that doesn't mean I use existing artifacts. I use existing, I mean, after teaching the basics, I take my existing repository and show it to you how I created it, and I ask you to, I also give you tasks. Okay, I also give you tasks too. For example, after completing Terraform, I'll say, okay, or Azure CLI, I'll ask you to create virtual machine using Azure CLI. If you don't do it, it's your loss, because unfortunately we are all adults. I cannot say that, hey, why did you not do this? Yeah, everything mostly will be practical. Of course, there would be some amount of theoretical also. Any more questions?
Nothing.
All right. If you do not have any questions, thank you everyone for joining this call. And on a Saturday morning or Friday evening if it's in the US. And hoping to see you all from Monday. Okay, we'll have a lot of fun, lot of learning, lot of knowledge sharing. Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay,
thanks.
thank you, Kiran.
Thanks everyone. Have a good weekend.
Thank
Thanks.
you.
Thank you.